Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Outriders. Now, this is a game that I was initially very interested in when it was originally teased back in like June 2019 because, you know, it was a co-op game. It was going to allow for up to 3-player co-op. It was done by People Can Fly, which are the same people that are behind Bulletstorm, which was another shooter that I really enjoyed. And it was a third-person shooter, which usually whenever it comes to having to choose between first-person and third-person, I tend to gravitate more towards the third-person action-type games. It's just something that I've noticed about me that I just kind of like looking at my character as I'm playing through the game. But, you know, I saw all of those things and I was like, you know what, this game sounds interesting. I probably even made videos about it back then. And I was like, man, this is definitely one to like keep your eyes on and all of that stuff, right? But then fast forward to their original reveal of gameplay where they initially showed the very first snippets, and I was just like, oh my god. Because I believe that they showed these snippets of gameplay and like the release of the game was scheduled for like a couple of months afterwards, if I remember correctly. But I saw that gameplay and I was like, wow, this does not look good at all. Like, the game just looked like it was going to be very undercooked, and I was just like instantly turned off by the footage that I saw on the official channels. And the interesting thing about Outriders at the time was that, you know, they did their usual events that they do with influencers and whatnot. And one of the people there was Eric's, and you know, Eric's also does a lot of Monster Hunter stuff, so naturally I check out his videos all the time. And then I went to his channel to check out his gameplay, and I was like, whoa. So Eric's gameplay actually looked like a million times better than the official gameplay, which I was like, what the... Why? I don't understand. Like, what is going on here? Like, the animations seemed more fluid than they did in the official reveal. Just the pacing of the gameplay looked better. Like, it still didn't look like something super amazing at the time, but it definitely looked a lot better than the official one. So it made me question, like, what is going on with this game? But basically, I was still pretty much turned off to it, and I just kind of like brushed it off to the side and never looked at it again. Now, recently, as we are coming up closer on the release date of this game, which I believe was actually supposed to have released in February, but they decided to delay it to April, which, interestingly enough, the current release date for this game, which might change after this video goes live, so don't blame me for that, but the current release date for this game is actually the 1st of April, which is like, why would you ever release a video game on the 1st of April? Like, that's just asking for getting trolled because April Fools and all of that. It's almost like, hey, if we delayed it, we can always just say, ha, April Fools, got ya. Like, I don't know what the idea is, but that is their current release date. Anyway, as we were approaching the release date, I was like, okay, let's see what the game is looking like right now, because I still had the game like in the back of my mind. And I just wanted to see what it was like. So in a live stream that I did over on Twitch, I looked at some of the gameplay footage and I was actually positively surprised. Like, I was like, oh, this actually looks pretty good now. It looks very different than what we had seen the very first time around. They fleshed out a lot of the ideas of the game. The animations look more polished. They're still not on that level that I would really like. Like, some of the animations still lack a significant amount of impact. So I would still like to see those brushed up a little bit, but that's because I'm very, very like focused on animations. Like, I always tell you guys, like, I don't care that much about visual fidelity, 4K, whatever, a million K, look at all these pixels. I don't care about that stuff. I just want them to animate really well, which is why, like, whenever there's something in the animations and I'm like, you know, that I just always tend to bring it up. So the animations still aren't like all there for me, but the overall feel that I got from the gameplay that I watched was actually much more pleasing. Like, it looked like something that I'm like, you know what, this actually looks like it's interesting for me to go check out. So I put out a poll on my YouTube community tab so that I could see where people were on Outriders. And I am not particularly surprised that there's actually a lot of you guys that never even heard of Outriders, because I almost think that you guys were like me, where you watched that initial, teaser thing that they did, and you're just like, oh wow, this doesn't look good at all, and you just deleted it from your memory. So anyways, on that poll, we have 53% of you never heard of Outriders. 14% of you have either gotten burned by Anthem, Avengers, and Godfall, or quite simply, you've seen, the impact that these games have had in the genre, because, all of these games are kind of like looter games where essentially you go through missions and you get your loot, and then you go back and you do it again and again and again. And all of these games were significantly undercooked when they came out. So Anthem, obviously we talked about that a bunch in this channel even. I still really miss the gameplay, but the content just wasn't there. The Avengers had its own problems, which you can see in my Avengers review if you're curious. And then Godfall also has its significant amount of problems. Despite, I consider these three games to still have like at least somewhat of a fun gameplay loop. Like there's significant issues with their content, right? And a lot of you guys have either gotten burned by these games or feel that these games have damaged this genre. So like 14% of you said you're going to pass because of it. 24% of you are actually where I would want you guys to be, which is you should always wait for reviews. That's like the best place to be. Wait for reviews. There is also a demo, by the way, on the 25th of February, which supposedly is a public demo, which we'll talk more about, because there's a lot about Outriders that, at least on the surface, is appearing to be very pro-consumer. And we're going to be going through all of those features in this video. But I think waiting for reviews, I think, is the right move. I think you should check out the demo because it's free. You got nothing to lose. But ultimately, before you get into the final product, you should wait for reviews. As a matter of fact, this should be your default position whenever a game comes out. Only 7% of you are getting it either day one or later, and then 3% of you are on pre-order gang. So like 10% of you guys are actually down for getting this game, at this point with what they've shown, which is, not unexpected, because again, like what I've seen has kind of like put me on board to at least keep an open mind in regards to it. So let's get into it. Let's actually talk about what this game is going to be about and all of that jazz. And I realized that I say that at like 7 minutes into the video. Sorry. I haven't really been able to work over the last couple of days because I've been feeling pretty sick. So I just feel like I have a lot on my mind. So anyway, Outriders. What is Outriders going to be about? This is a third-person looter shooter with classes and special powers. Almost kind of like Destiny. As a matter of fact, the powers seem to be very much like Destiny, where you press the left bumper, that's one power, right bumper, that's another power, and then you press both at the same time, and that's your third power. So you have 3 powers. I believe that each class is going to have about 8 powers. You get to pick 3 of those. And then there's a bunch of customization that you have with, like, there's a full-on skill tree that you can reset for free. But it's just like full-on RPG stuff going on, right? So third-person looter shooter, this is going to support up to 3 players co-op. You guys might be wondering, why not 4 players? Because, a lot of games do 4-player, like even Monster Hunter naturally does 4-player. The reasoning is developers felt that 3-player is the right balance, because 4 players, they felt like there was too much stuff on screen at the same time, because, a lot of the game is visual spectacle with the powers and all that. And they just felt like 4-player was too chaotic. That has been the justification up until this point, at least. This does not have PvP, so if you're looking for something that also includes PvP, that is not going to be this game. And now one of the most important things I find is that Outriders is not games as a service. Now, a lot of these games tend to be games as a service, so like Anthem and Marvel Avengers were definitely marketed as a games as a service type of deal. Godfall was not, but Godfall has other issues. But basically, this is not games as a service. So basically what you get is, you buy it, this is what you get, full game right at launch, okay? They do admit that they can potentially release an expansion later, but this is going to be like an old school style thing, is what they're saying. So think like Diablo 2, Lord of Destruction, right? I don't think that was a bad thing. I thought Lord of Destruction was a fantastic expansion. Or StarCraft Brood War. That's the type of stuff that they are talking about, potentially adding an expansion later, obviously depending on the success of the game and all of that stuff. The game is not going to feature any microtransactions, but they do allow you to buy the pre-order items, which, to be honest, I actually think that's a really good idea. Because here's the thing, right? Imagine that you buy the game and then later down the line, you're like, you know what? I actually really like this game. Too bad that I missed out on the pre-order stuff. You can still get it. You can still buy it, right? So I actually think that that is, in a way, it's actually a pro-consumer move. I mean, the best consumer move would just be, look, everybody gets the same items, like what CD Projekt did back in the day with Witcher. It's like, doesn't matter where you buy it. Like, we're going to be doing some of these, you know, pre-order item things, but everybody gets them. Doesn't matter if you buy it today, doesn't matter if you buy it 10 years from now. Everybody gets the pre-order, the bonus DLC items. Like, I think that would be the best way to do it. But if you're going to have like some incentive for pre-order, allowing people to buy that later, I don't really have a huge problem with that. And that is the only thing that they say that they will potentially sell. So no cosmetic microtransactions, no, power microtransactions, no special currencies, none of that nonsense, none of that. This is what they are saying. So like, don't come in here like after the game is launched, like, Rurikhan, you said they weren't gonna do this. No, I said this is what they're saying, because at this point, I almost feel like I'm not entirely sure if I trust developers nowadays, because like they keep telling stuff and then changing it around. So right now they're saying no microtransactions, but they will let you buy the pre-order items if you enjoy the game enough. Those items supposedly are not connected to any kind of power, so they're not gonna give you any in-game advantage, okay? Now, another very important thing, no de novo. Now, those of you who know what de novo is, if you happen to play on PC, you'll probably know that de novo is a terrible anti-piracy middleware, software, whatever the hell you want to call it, that basically chugs games into the dirt, makes paying customers basically get a worse experience than customers that just get like a pirated version of a game, and is just ultimately one of the worst anti-consumer things that you can do is put de novo on your game, okay? De novo is just hot garbage, period. You know, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So they're not going to put de novo in their game. However, it is important to mention this because after all this, I know that a lot of you guys are getting like super excited. Oh man, this sounds great. The game is going to require an internet connection at all times for you to be able to play. This is going to be an online game. And it kind of sucks because ultimately, you know, it's not games as a service. So technically speaking, you are able to play solo. They said, you know, you can solo through the entire campaign. It'll be slightly easier if you have more players, but you can solo through the entire campaign. That's completely an option that you have. So it kind of sucks. Like if you can solo the whole thing, why do you need an internet connection, right? It would kind of be cool if the internet connection was optional. But you know, that is going to be one of the downsides of Outriders, which was the same thing for Godfall, and I never understood because like, I think I only played Godfall solo, but it still required an internet connection the whole time. Like, I guess it's almost like an anti-cheat type of thing to prevent players from just like editing their saves and becoming like broken overpowered. I'm assuming that the saves will be stored server side. So, you know, that's one of the downers. But to make up for that, the game is going to have full crossplay. So you can play PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PC, like all the platforms, even Stadia, I think. I think the game's also launching on Stadia. All the platforms, full crossplay for everything. So that is big ups right there. Big ups. So crossplay, and I'm assuming also cross-save, considering that this requires an internet connection, which means your save will most likely be on the cloud. So it's just like you log into your account or whatever, and boom, done. There's your character from any platform that you play in, which is friggin' fantastic. Like that, this is one of the things that I hope more games do moving forward, just like full crossplay, so that things don't necessarily need to be dictated. Like, for instance, I know that Gaijin Hunter loves playing on his Xbox Series X. So imagine if Gaijin Hunter, for some reason, gets into Outriders, he's going to be playing on his Xbox, I'll be playing on my PlayStation 5, and we wouldn't be able to play together if the game didn't have full crossplay. So really, really good. And then on top of it, they're also doing a free next-gen upgrade. So considering that right now PlayStation, finding a PlayStation 5 is still extremely hard. I know that there's a lot of you guys out there trying to get PlayStation 5s. Do not succumb to the friggin' scalpers, dude. Screw those people. Like, completely get burned. Like, I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire, you filthy friggin' scalper. Like, don't give in to the scalpers. Just wait until stock gets fixed. But basically, they're saying that if you buy like the Xbox One version of the game, it doesn't matter. You know, through the smart delivery system, whatever Microsoft has, you get a free next-gen upgrade. And same thing for if you get the PS4 version, you get a free upgrade to the PS5 when you eventually get a PlayStation 5. Like, that is just something that is not going to be a problem. Again, according to what the developers are saying, I'm just reporting on stuff that they've said publicly in their YouTube channel, okay? So that is something that I think is really cool because people are still struggling to get next-gen consoles. Maybe they can't afford it right now because pandemic, and this way you can still enjoy the game on PS4 or Xbox One and then just get the update, no problem. Now, in terms of time, like how long the length of the campaign is usually a question that people have. And it's like, I've listened to a lot of their developer talks because, you know, the developers always like to stretch things a little bit. So I'm already given my own conservative estimate, and I would expect the campaign to be around 25 hours, okay? The developers are saying like 30, maybe more, but I think it's going to be about 25 hours if you're just doing the critical path, maybe even a little bit less than that, and it's going to be about 40 hours with side quests. So if you really just like decide, oh, I'm going to do everything and I'm going to go do all of the side quests, that's probably going to be 40 hours. It is also important to mention that side quest rewards will scale with your level. So it's like if you want to get to the end of the game and then you go do side quests with a friend or something like that, and you might find some side quests that you missed, that side quest is actually going to give you rewards adequate to your level. There's also world tiers, which we'll talk about later, which are like difficulty levels. And depending on the level that you're at, you're going to have better loot and stuff like that. So that's also something that we'll get on. Now, it is important that from my assessment, none of this actually includes endgame. And we'll talk more about endgame because that is going to be very, very interesting. Just going to briefly touch up on that because this video is already getting much longer than I intended. But anyway, I'm gonna give you a quick brush up on the 4 classes that the game is launching with. So you got the Trickster, which is like almost like a melee type of class, short range type of class. His element is going to be lightning, and he's gonna have powers to do like time manipulation and stuff like that. It's gonna be able to like freeze enemies and, you know, and do some crazy stuff with that. So I see him almost as like a rogue, right? A rogue that does time manipulation. I think he's also able to become invisible or something like that. I might do more detailed videos on these classes if you guys are interested, so let me know in the comment section below. The other class, the Pyromancer, which is, his element is obviously fire, and he's like a medium range caster, so his spells have like medium range, and you're gonna be in that range for like shotguns, submachine guns, that type of stuff is what I would expect for the Pyromancer. It actually looks really cool. It's the one that I'm most interested in simply because I really like fire powers, you know, fire explosions, stuff like that. You guys know, Gunlands, you know me, right? Then we got the Devastator, which is Tanky Boy, which is like, these are the two that I'm obviously in the size of between. You got the Pyro and the Devastator. If the Fire one was tanky, that would be the one that I would go, obviously. But like, you know, you got these two classes, I'm not sure. So his element is Earth. He's Tanky Boy, he's got shields, and he's also got gravity powers that can kind of like clump up enemies together to allow other classes to just like completely obliterate them with AoE powers. And then you have the Technomancer, whose element is Frost and Poison, I think, or Corruption, whatever it is that they call him. And he's able to summon like weapons and turrets, like can summon a friggin' rocket launcher, he can summon a minigun, he can summon a turret that shoots missiles. Like, looks like a really fun class. Like, I almost wanted to play him just because he's got like that missile turret, and it reminds me a lot of my my big boy in Anthem who had like the shoulder missiles, which were really cool. But you know, I have to stay strong. I'm probably going to be Pyromancer or Devastator, not sure yet, but you know, these are the 4 classes that you can choose from in order to play Outriders. Now, a very important thing about Outriders is that they want you to play aggressive. Now, initially, I don't even think that they were really using, you know, the cover system like, you know, Gears style. They weren't really using that. I think there was no auto grabbing cover, but I don't remember. It's been a while since I saw that first video, but now there is. So now you can take cover, but ultimately they don't want you to. It's like their cover is for cowards. So you're supposed to just move forward and mow your enemies down, because the way that you heal is usually by playing aggressive. Like, they have the detailed descriptions as to how each class heals. I don't remember all of them by head because I just watched these videos like last week. But the Technomancer, I know that he has passive lifesteal. So the more damage you deal, the more life you steal. The Pyromancer is about if an enemy on fire gets killed, then you heal. The Devastator is if enemies get killed near you, then you heal. So it's like, it's all about playing aggressive. So when you're down, you're down in your chips and like your health is really low, what they want you to do is just like go even harder. Like, don't be conservative. Don't like hang back. Just go even harder and go kill something, which is actually something that I really like. Because like you play something in the vein of The Division, for instance, and a lot of it almost seems like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and cover and then take a couple of shots. You poke your head out, it's like, oh, your energy is in the red, back to cover. Like this, I remember when I used to play the first Division. The second one I didn't play as much. But when I played the first Division, a lot of it was basically standing behind cover. So I like that they're kind of like pushing you to be more aggressive about stuff. So now let's talk about difficulty. So there's gonna be 15 world tiers, and I'm assuming you're not going to have access to all of these from the get-go, but the idea here is, depending on your level, your character is going to have like access to a certain world tier of difficulty, and then as you just play your character on the maximum world tier that you can do for that level, you're going to gain experience, and at a certain point, you're going to unlock the next world tier. And on the flip side, if you die, then you lose experience and you stay in that world tier for longer. It's kind of how they're balancing things out. I'm very interested to see how that ends up playing in the final game. You can lower your world tier, and I think at that point you won't gain experience for like the next world tier, but you can lower it if you feel like, okay, this is too hard. I'm gonna lower this down a little bit, and it dynamically adjusts the health pools and stuff like that. And I'm assuming there's going to be some AI tweaks as well for world tiers. At least I would hope so, instead of it just being like, a numbers game. But we'll see how that pans out. And ultimately, the higher the world tier you are in, it basically means that the enemies are going to drop more loot and better quality loot. So that is something that I'm very interested in. But now, let's talk about endgame. What happens at endgame? You're just going to be stuck doing the same old thing, which is kind of like what Godfall did in a lot of ways. It's kind of like what Anthem did. You were basically doing the same instances that you were doing while you were leveling up. No, this game's post-content, and I want you to listen to this very carefully, because when I listened to this in their video, I was just like, there's no way. There's no way. They specifically said, post-game content does not reuse assets from the campaign. And I was like, there's no way you can do this. Because like all games do this, right? Every single game pretty much in this genre tends to do this. Whenever you get to endgame, it's like, okay, now we're going to recycle the stuff that you did before. We're going to make it harder, going to put some modifiers on it, stuff like that. And there you go. There's your endgame. This game, they're like, no, you're not going to reuse assets. All of the stuff that you do in endgame is going to be entirely new content. And they already said that there's going to be 14 different expeditions, which are like the missions that you go on after you finish this game. And you get to go on those missions, then eventually you'll unlock like a 15th, I think, which is going to be like some special one. I don't remember all of the things about the end game, but I was super excited about the concept of like no reusing of assets. Is like you get to the end of the story, and now from here on out there's these expeditions that you can also do besides going back and completing like side quests that maybe you didn't do at the time or whatever, and you can just go on these expeditions with other players. They said the expeditions are going to be considerably harder than the content that you've done before, and naturally there's still the world tier system, and during the expeditions you actually don't get loot after you kill the bosses, because some of these are going to be timed. They're all going to be timed, and then depending on how fast you are at completing them, you're going to get more loot, but you get all of the loot at the end, which, to be honest, that is one of the best ways of doing it. Because like you don't want to be that guy that you're in a group with 4 friends and then suddenly some loot drops and you're like, okay, everybody stop. I gotta do some inventory management, gotta check my loot. Like when you're at the end game, I can appreciate the fact that like, no, all of the loot stuff is done at the end. Like, oh, the mission's done. Now we can check out, the good fat loot that we got and all of that stuff. So that is very interesting. This is just like a very generic overview on Outriders, and I'm very curious to hear from you guys in the comment section. Let me know what you think about Outriders up until this point. I'm very curious for trying out the demo come the 25th, which they also said one of the reasons why they delayed was so that players could actually go and check out this demo. So, We'll see how all of that stuff pans out. That is going to be it for this video. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all of that jazz. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy this video, hit the dislike button. Feedback is important. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.